hailing from Chatham, Kent, England.
People got their eyes on you as being the next big thing.
Age 19.
Dangerous man to share the ring with.
I don't know who I'm fighting next.
We've got a big opportunity potentially in May.
I'm early. My job is getting to the ring and fighting whoever they put in front of me. Even if they said, like, tomorrow you're fighting King Kong, I'll be like, no problem.
I'll be very shocked if he's not at least the heavyweight world champion.
It's going to be a busy year for him, I'm sure. Moses, you were the subject of an episode of The Contender on Sun Sports' YouTube channel. Did you enjoy being part of that?
Do you know, it was a whole day, and obviously getting cut into 15 minutes, it's like, it makes it a little bit more entertaining. You don't really notice that the cameras are there. You just kind of obviously just get along with your day, and then they just ask you questions here and there. So I guess I didn't feel no two ways about it.
Can I ask you about this expectation that's building up around you and what that feels like to be you? I think we've spoken about it briefly before when you've come in the studio, and every time you're introduced by anybody, whether it's Jim White or any boxing person, it's the expected next heavyweight champion of the world. Right? How does that weigh on you? How does that make you think?
Personally, like, I don't pay attention to it and I don't really care, but at the same time, I don't like it only because it's like, let's say I've got an opponent and everyone expects me to knock him out and I don't knock him out. It's like...
You're going to be judged by that standard.
Exactly. So...
Do you feel the pressure of that, though? Like, you know, like some fighters do feed off that.
I feel it, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care, honestly, only because it actually does me no favours. People's expectations of me is not going to help me in the ring, so I guess it's kind of entertainment and I've got to deliver, innit?
It's a good answer. I mean, I watched the episode and I thought it was a very good episode, and I also watched you, and you were very calm, and there's a serenity about you, which I think is probably masking something far more malevolent, which needs to be because you're a heavyweight fighter. Francis, you're obviously a big part of his journey. I mean, and with all the noise going around him, it's been going on for about 18 months now, and obviously everyone knows that you're very invested and involved with him. How interesting and challenging is this journey with him?
It's a fantastic challenge, and it's one that I've fully embraced. And what makes it easy is his drive and determination, and Moses' want to get to where he believes he can be. What I have, the issue that I now have though, is as you just said about expectations on opponents and things like that. I'm actually finding it I'm finding it a challenge to get Moses to fight somebody if it's not for that next step.
Yeah.
So opponents that's maybe suggested, and he wants to fight someone much better because he believes in himself so much.
Yeah.
So the noise around it has obviously been created by our belief in Moses' ability, and it's just about trying to keep that balance right, about making the right moves at the right time, which most importantly Moses feels comfortable with, and it matches his ambition for this stage in his career.
But you trust that judgment, don't you? You trust, I mean, Francis and his dad are, for me, the best matchmakers around, so you trust that judgment, don't you?
No, of course, we got a solid team. It's in the partnership with the management, promoter, coach, and obviously my family. So yeah, I do trust them, and obviously it's like with boxing, it's like everything's in your own hands. So if I didn't trust them, do you know what I mean?
A couple of months ago, what people consider to be the main man in boxing now, Turki Al-Sheikh, I think he's one of the main men. I think his dad's one of the main men as well. Your name came up in conversation with him a couple of months ago, as I say.
If we have a time, I want to see in the future Itauma against Usyk. If we have a time, if Usyk doesn't retire, and also Tyson against Joshua, of course, and also Crawford against Canelo.
Wow, those would be three great fights.
And also Inoue against Ball.
Against
That's
Nick
a
Ball.
great fight.
Wow, that's a great fight, Frank, isn't it?
That's a great fight, but I'm going to disappoint you, because when Daniel Dubois fights Usyk, he will get his revenge, but Young Moses and Daniel, what a great British fight that'll be.
He throws all these names out of them, again, you know, into the ether, and big names. When you hear yourself, Moses, in conjunction with those names, does it resonate with you? Do you pinch yourself, or do you say, well, that's the company I'm going to be keeping pretty soon anyway?
I don't feel two ways about it, because it's not a reality. Like, people can say, oh, you're going to be fighting this person, that person, but like, I feel Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker showed, until you're in that ring, like, it's all kind of dust, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you where you think you are then, because I know you get these questions and we keep poking at you about expectation. You can't really answer these questions because it's other people's expectations. But you must have a view of what level you're at now.
If you want my honest opinion, I think
I do.
If my skill set, if you're talking about my ring IQ and what I display in the ring, I feel like I am the best in the world, but I haven't displayed the later rounds. That's all what I kind of want to get ticked off. So my next opponent or opponents this year, we're just looking at fights to kind of get me into that later round, because I feel like with Usyk, I feel like I've got a better skill set than him, but I feel like towards the later rounds, he'll just outdo me, because I've never been in that sort of fight. So this year's just about getting me some rounds. And
I think the big problem you've got, mate, is that, like a young Mike Tyson, when you look at that, you go, before he got that opportunity against Trevor Berbick way back in 1986, he couldn't get the rounds because at a certain level, the fighters are not going to compete with you. And I think you displayed against Dempsey McKean, who took Hrgovic 12 rounds. You look at that and you use that as a comparison and you obliterate him the way that you did in the round. It might be difficult to find that opponent that can give you those rounds.
Who do you want to see him in
to
with,
that level?
Who would you like to see him in with? I mean, he sat there.
I've said it, mate. I said, look, I've always said, look, when you're talking about becoming the youngest heavyweight world champion, you look at it and you go, Kubrat Pulev is sitting there stylistically. This man would beat him in a heartbeat. And I think that someone like that is a great yardstick. And you put him in against Pulev, who's a tough guy. And, you know, he's mixed at that level. You've seen him in with Joshua. You've seen him in, like, more recently with Derek Chisora. And you go, that's an obvious match for me. And I think that that's the sort of fight that I'd like. That's where I'd like to see Moses at.
Well, I mean, it leads me to the question of you, Francis, because you're guiding his career. I suppose it comes down to roadmaps and timeframes. Now, there's a hurry for this kid. I mean, with all due respect, I don't mean to call him a kid, but he's a young man compared to me. So there's a hurry. Everyone builds up expectation. Everyone's talking about he could be the youngest world champ because Tyson was once upon a time. Everyone's drawing parallels. You know what you're looking at. You know what's the right thing to do. When you're thinking in your mind's eye, what is the roadmap likely to be? And when you start thinking about world titles, which is what everyone is alluding to, is going to be an inevitable conclusion for him, what do you anticipate will be the time frame for that?
For a world title, it's when the right opportunity comes along. And as Moses just said, he's capable of mixing it with the guys now. But I think it's his team's job, and that's myself, Queensberry, and his family, to advise investors, and Ben Davison as well, to advise investors to when that moment is. And until we get to that opportune moment, we need to make sure that each opponent, each training camp, each PR commercial decision made is one that gets him into that position where he's best prepared for it. There are fights out there that I believe will give him rounds, and I think that's one of the most valuable things that we could pick up along the way.
Like who?
Otto Wallin, Jermaine Franklin, Michael Hunter.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know, people of that ilk. I think that they would provide
a different
or
challenge.
at least expect
different
be
challenge.
expected.
Although he did just get beat by Hrgovic, I think obviously Joyce will give me a few rounds as well, which I kind of mentioned.
That's why he said to get not to retire.
But I'm saying if that fight does happen, that's a great yardstick, isn't it? Like them sort of names you look at if Joe decides not to retire.
But of course, the risk there is that if Moses goes in there and blasts, say his next 4 fights, and he blasts all 4 of those away, then there's no turning back. Then we're there, and rightly so. But I think the concern is that if you go in with maybe a bit more of an unknown, and it does go later, into the later rounds, for us it would be almost a result.
Because he's learning.
But from the general public's perspective, there's going to be criticism. But obviously we take
you're damned if you do, damned if you don't,
exactly,
don't you, really?
Exactly.
Because if you put him in with someone that he blasts that inside a round, it's easy for him. If you put him in someone that people think he should blast that in a round and he doesn't, then you're caught on the other side of that argument, aren't you?
We've had a 5-month layoff.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were waiting for something, but there was going to be something potentially big in May, which didn't quite materialise. So, you know, it's not going to be all fireworks for the next one, which is, I think is the aim of the game is to get back in the swing of things, and there'll be a couple of fights before the end of July, and then perhaps definitely at least one before Christmas, maybe 2. So the aim is
4 fights,
4 fights before the end of December.
It's fascinating for us, Spence, and I know I'm talking with him sat there. There are the only questions that we haven't asked of Moses is when someone lands one on him, because that hasn't happened, and that's the interesting dynamic, isn't it?
That's the obvious question. Whenever you're going through the history of boxing, isn't it? When you get a guy that's got, I don't want to big his head up too much, but when you've got a guy that's got talent like he's got, and he's going to achieve what we all think he's going to achieve, then that is always the question. What about when he gets one back? We ask that same question. I keep making the comparisons to a young Mike Tyson. What about when he gets hit on the chin then? You go, but from what you're hearing in the gym and with the people that he's been mixing with since he was a 15-year-old kid, people like Joe Joyce, who was strong and tough back then, you go, well, he can clearly take a shot, because otherwise you wouldn't be sparring and competing with these guys, in the gym. So I think the answer to the question is right there.
Me personally, I don't think your skill level or how good you are as a boxer means how you can take a shot. I just, you've obviously heard of the saying you can't swim without getting wet, but you can go into a fight without getting hit.
Well, that's the
only reason why I still went through with that Dempsey McKean fight is because I said to myself, I can actually go in this fight without getting hit. So I feel like with all that, how's it going to be like when you get hit? It doesn't matter if I don't get hit.
Yeah, but you've got the confidence in your own ability that when you do get hit, because that is inevitably going to happen, it's heavyweight boxing, that you're going to be able to deal with that.
I mean, it's not inevitable, but I remember talking to Richard Riakporhe, and we were saying, how would you get a chin like Golovkin? And he said, bro, it's just better not to find out. And that is just a simple case that I don't think how good your chin is depends on how good of a boxer you are.
This is a calm, collected, well-balanced young man. He's only 20. I mean, I think stardom is awaiting him. When do you expect him? Do you expect him to headline a fight this year?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I don't think it would have been far off had the May big opportunity presented itself. I think the idea was for Moses to headline in July. Or June, sorry, in June. But listen, there's no rush. He's 20.
Absolutely.
And I think that the last thing we want to do is set him up for a situation where we say, right, we're going to go to Wembley Arena and with 10,000 tickets and and we weren't quite there yet. So, and we only did 3 or 4. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but why take the risk until we know we're going to be packing paces out and people that everybody knows who he is. And I don't think we're far off, but I think we're a couple of sort of big name wins away from getting there.
It's just great to have a good fighter in our country, isn't it?
Well, it's level-headedness. It's most dangerous. I think it's it's very exciting. Absolutely thrilled to be a part of it, and
fantastic.
It's going to be quite
follow that journey.